Okay, now that we have all the parts, we're going to start with the motherboard and the processor and heatsink installation. You might be wondering why we're doing this outside of the chassis, and that's just I found in the past it's better to do. It's easier to hassle with everything, especially since we're using a low profile chassis where things are a bit tighter. So here we have the heatsink, we have the motherboard, and we have the little CPU. And to get started, we are going to lift the latch for the CPU, and you see basically the whole thing pops up, and then you see the space for the processor. AMD parts are a little bit different, but for the most part work the exact same. And what you're going to be looking for on the motherboard is an actual arrow in the corner. You see right down here. Sorry, that's the arrow. So I'm trying to get in there for you guys to see it, but it's there. And the reason that's so important is because the chip itself has an arrow in its corner. So what you want to do is sync it up. There are also grooves in the corners here, and those align with the space. And you can see it's nice and snug. It's not the old days. If you notice on the back of the chip, there are no pins. It's completely flat, so that's nice. It makes installation a lot easier. If you're using a significantly older system, then you'll have pins under there. And then you're going to slide it down to close. And the locking mechanism makes it pretty simple. At this point, you can either apply thermal compound or not. Depending on the heat of your situation and how important cooling is, you'll really want to use thermal compound. And so here I have some Antec Formula 5. This is fairly old, but it should still work. The point why we use thermal compound is to help disperse the heat and connect the CPU a little bit better to the processor. So to the heatsink, sorry. So what we want to do is we want to squirt just a tiny amount from here. And you want to be careful because it's very easy to over apply. You can see just a snit. That's it. That's all we want here. We gotta back it up. You can see it's just a drop. You don't want any more than that. And the reason you don't want more than that is because when it gets hot, the liquid will spread to the chip. So you see we have a very, very small amount. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to apply the heatsink here. So we've got the trusty heatsink. We're using the stock Intel heatsink because it's actually pretty quiet. It's thermally adjustable through the BIOS, so it'll pick up speed as it gets hot. But it's actually pretty quiet, and as you can see, it's low profile. You'll see when we get our chassis why that's important. But then to insert it, you're just going to sync up the 4 holes there alongside. And you're going to want to make sure that this cable is going to be to your liking. Here we have it in the CPU fan right there. So that's a perfect spot for us. And then literally to insert it, you just click down until you hear it click. Really. I like to go in the corners first. Makes it easier. Let's see here. Sometimes it gets a little stuck. You gotta put a little bit of elbow grease in there. There you go. And then last but not least, we got this guy. There you go. Alright, and there we go. You can confirm by looking on the back, and you see that the protrusions here, they all are clean and they went through successfully. Okay, so then the last step, as I mentioned, is you just you connect it to the CPU fan spot on the motherboard. So it's right in the corner. It says CPU fan on it. Makes life really easy. Okay, the last step we're going to do before we install this onto the motherboard is we're going to insert our trusty memory modules. So this part is the easiest part of all. So first things first, you open up the DIMM slots here. You just spread them aside, and you see they just connect back like that. So we spread them apart, take out first module, and you'll notice there's a groove on there. It's not in the middle. So the reason it's not in the middle is because this is exactly how it has to line up in order for the memory to work. So this makes it easy to connect. You just slide it in here, and then again you push down until it clicks on both sides, and you see it automatically locks itself, so you don't even have to apply that. And you don't have to apply too much pressure. If it's not fitting, it's probably not in the correct order, so don't force it in. There we go. There we go. And just like that, we're set to go. So let's get to the chassis and start building this bad boy.